in Tampa this weekend?
No, Brady won't be able to keep up with Mahomes. I mean, they both have a lot of weapons, but the Tampa defense has been playing better, even in spite of, very recent games. The Tampa defense has been playing better than the Chiefs defense. And because the Tampa defense has a potential to be elite, which we've seen this year, that's what Mahomes is going to be facing. Brady's going to be facing a defense that has been trending in the wrong direction. They're still better than given credit for, but it's a softer touch. So the game should be closer, I think, than people anticipate, and I do think Tampa will have chances. I do not think Tom Brady can keep up with Patrick Mahomes. But let me be clear. At no point in Tom Brady's career he's going to keep up with Patrick Mahomes given the same circumstances. Mahomes is a much more talented player. And Brady's advantage back in the day was not only he was a strong-armed quarterback, but he was the best decision maker. He processed information the most quickly. He made the best decisions. He made the fewest errors. Number one, he ain't with Bill Belichick anymore. And Bill Belichick had something to do with that, right? He's with Bruce Arians. Now he sees not how the other half lives, but how almost everyone else who's ever lived lives without Bill Belichick. Not that the guy's not good, but he's not as close to perfect, right? And that's part of it. And so, the game can be close, but Mahomes also makes the kind of decisions that Brady makes, in his prime, that big advantage that Brady had. He's making the best decisions, others aren't. Nowadays, a lot of guys are making a lot of good decisions. Mahomes is one of them, but he's doing it with superhuman talent. So no, Brady won't keep up with Mahomes, but Tampa might keep up with the Chiefs.
Listen, this is not a home run for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a game that they're going to have to play because I believe when you look at the weapons of Tampa Bay, they match up very favorably against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, do I give the Kansas City Chiefs the edge? Absolutely, because of the dude that plays quarterback. But when you're thinking Mike Evans on Ward and AB on Breeland, and you're thinking about Rob Gronkowski's facing the linebacker core of the Kansas City Chiefs, you think, okay, we can win. You think about the way that Rojo, even though he doesn't catch the ball well, the way that he can run the football, you're thinking, okay, we could play a little keep away. And so this game doesn't look to me as a blowout. This is a game where the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have to make some plays late. But don't we all know that they're going to make them? Right? The same way we felt when the Las Vegas Raiders gave the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, and Derek Carr played an excellent game. And this offense of the Vegas Raiders moved the ball up and down the field on the Kansas City Chiefs. We all knew with 143 that was too much time for Patrick Mahomes. And I think it comes down to that again. And I think we come in and we're going to talk next week and we're going to speak about this game and we're going to be like, you know what? Brady played better. The Tampa Bay offense played better. The Tampa Bay's defense was solid. The Tampa Bay's defense made some good plays. But Patrick Mahomes is just that good. And I think Max said something earlier about the Kansas City Chiefs that lets you know how good they are. Is that because teams make it an NFL game, right? Because teams make it a professional contest, which usually comes down to one possession games, we say things like the Chiefs look vulnerable. Right? Even though they're 12-4 and win the Super Bowl, but they were losing at some points in the playoffs. Oh my goodness, they just beat the Carolina Panthers. Oh, the Las Vegas Raiders beat them earlier and it took Patrick Mahomes to drive late. That's football, right? That's what happens. That's why it's a team sport. And so though the Kansas City Chiefs aren't undefeated, though the Kansas City Chiefs aren't perfect, I think their quarterback is the closest thing to. The quarterback is the closest thing to walking on the field. And when you talk about him against the other quarterback being undefeated, the quarterback is the closest thing to perfection that we have right now because he's the best doing it and he makes some of the best decisions. And so, go ahead.
Ryan, I'll give you one. You have to bet your house. The rules are you have to bet your house. You have no choice. Here are your options. You can be the team up 6. There's a minute left to play. Okay. Or you could be Patrick Mahomes down 6. If I had to put my house up on one of those two situations, my house is going, I'm betting I'd rather be the team with Patrick Mahomes down 6. He has, especially this team, He has a minute left on the clock to score a touchdown. I think it's better than a 50-50 proposition. So, like, you're right. They appear vulnerable. They were down to the Texans. They were down to the Titans. They were down to the Niners. They were down early this season. But all they did was win, 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 win. It's a mirage. It's an illusion. They look vulnerable, but they got Mahomes and all these weapons. In the end, they're going to get you.
And I think that's the problem with this team. I think that's also the problem with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is we expected the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to look like the Kansas City Chiefs because of the weapons. We thought back to 2007, Brady, when he had Randy Moss. And that's all people kept saying. Remember when he had weapons? Oh, now look what he has. He's going to be so good. And so when it doesn't happen, there's that disappointment. Right? Expectation is the greatest breeding ground for disappointment because if you don't expect certain things, you don't feel let down. So when we see Brady play great the way, or the team play great the way they play against Carolina, you expect that to roll back around when you're playing the Rams, when you're playing the Saints. But every week is different. And what we've seen is when you can put pressure on Tom Brady, it changes him. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs will. And so I think that this game will be better than people expect. But Patrick Mahomes still finds a way, and we still come back and question Brady and question Arians and question this relationship.
That's right about the pressure. And consider this. Brady has had a couple of times this season in big games, like against the Bears at Soldier Field, where they were favored. When Nick Foles threw the pass in a bad game because the Bears had no O-line, but he got them to field goal range on the money down, and they kicked the field goal to take the lead. They left too much time for Tom Brady. Here it comes. No, it didn't. And not only could he not complete difficult passes, he forgot the downs. Same thing with the Rams. Did they leave too much time on the clock? It's Tom Brady. If you had to list the quarterbacks with a minute left in the game that you need to march you down the field, is Brady one of the top 3 or 4 or even 5 guys in the league right now? Because he has every weapon you can imagine. The answer is no.
Well, Max, you're right. Off of that, these quarterbacks had 2 very different games this past weekend. We saw Tom Brady, 2 interceptions late in the game, couldn't capitalize on that game-winning drive, whereas Pat Mahomes threw that 22-yard touchdown pass to Travis Kelce, 28 seconds to go, lifting the Chiefs over the Raiders 35-31. So there you go. All right, guys, let's wrap this up.
I think the best thing about the quarterback position these days is that there's really good quarterback play everywhere. There's young guys. We're done. We need more. And then there's still the veteran guys.
All day, just like that.
There's a wide spectrum lent to a lot of competitive football.
When we hit this field, we do what we do. We dominate. How about those teams?
Great throw by Brady. A 4-touchdown day for number 12.
That's a record. Is it? Oh, yeah.
There are times that Tom has looked good, and then times that he just looks uncomfortable. I mean, is it possible that the greatest quarterback of all time, because of what he's dealing with, could have a confidence problem? What do you think's going on with Tom?
I don't think it's a confidence problem whatsoever. It's just still it's not lack of trust. It's just lack of continuity within the offense of the whole picture.
It seems like over the last few weeks that Tom's accuracy has been off from what we saw maybe in the first half of the season. Are you seeing anything changing there with him?
Other than the deep ball, I think he's getting confused a few times with coverage. That might be causing some inaccurate balls, but I don't see it at all in practice. We're not missing the deep ball in practice, that's for sure. So it's just a matter on Sundays hitting them.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on into First Take. Look at this crew we got right here. Max Kellerman, Ryan Clark, I'm Charlie Arnold. And gentlemen, want to tell you happy early Thanksgiving. As we all know, Thanksgiving marks the season of giving. And as you just heard, Bruce Arians, he is giving out yet another critique of his quarterback, Tom Brady. This is the 3rd time this season he has done so. So, Max, I got to ask you, what is going on with Arians and Tom Brady?
Well, first, I hear a lot of speculation that Arians didn't want AB there, and there's some tension there, and Brady's getting the stuff he wants, so Arians is kind of going back at him. I don't actually read it that way. Let me start by saying they're 7-4. You know what they were supposed to be around right now? 7-4. That's actually a little better than I thought they'd be. Like the Bucs were 7-9 last season, and with average quarterback play, they'd have been 9-7. And Brady is still an average quarterback. Oh, how could you say that about Brady? I told you a couple years ago he's going to be just a guy. He defied that prediction, and he's better than just a guy. You can see
Max,
that, but not way better. You know, Brady has given you, by the way, by QBR, by everything, has given you not just this season, but last season too. Average quarterback play plus. I'll give him a plus because he's a leader. And the bottom line is, look at his team's win-loss records. That has a lot to do with quarterback play. I believe in quarterback win-losses, and he's been very good. So I'll give him better than just average. But the point is, if you substitute Jameis Winston with an average or better than average quarterback, 9 wins. 9.5 wins, I think, is what Vegas had as the over-under. And take the over. So take 10 or 11 wins. They're on pace to do more or less what they were supposed to do. People who were like, all they could see is Tom Brady. Oh my God, they're going to win, 12 or 13 games. That I don't think was ever supposed to happen. The odds makers didn't think it would. So they're on pace. Now let's look at Arians. What has he done so far? Every time Arians has pushed a button, it seems to be the right one with Brady. Week 1, they lose to the Saints. And there, you could see COVID, they couldn't practice together. The Saints have continuity in their offense. By the way, they also didn't look that good. Arians comes out, he's critical publicly of Tom Brady. Look at this, guys. I can criticize Tom Brady. If Brady has to get in line, you all have to get in line. And I'm trying to motivate Brady, right? How does Brady respond? Excellently, they win. Now, it's against the Panthers. Panthers don't have a good record, but they're not a god-awful team, you know? They're not a winning team, but okay, there are much worse teams than the Panthers. Again, it happens a little bit later on, right? Against the Bears. Against the Bears, they lose, and Brady doesn't come through. He forgets, he loses track of downs. And what does Arians come out and say? He defends Brady. He covers for him. He lies for him. Obviously, Brady lost track of downs. And then Brady covers for Arians by not answering the question directly so he doesn't make his coach a liar. And how does Brady and the team respond? They beat the brakes off the Packers. They beat the brakes off them. And then they get on a roll, right? So far, Arians is pushing the right buttons. When to be honest, when to lie, when to back him up, when to make an example of him, when to motivate him. It happens again. The Saints this time, and now the Bucs are favored to win, beat the brakes off the Bucs the way the Bucs beat the Packers. And what does Arians do? He comes out and he's critical again. And what happens? Now, maybe they're just getting healthy against Carolina, right? Because they beat the Panthers again, beat them up good. But they also got healthy against the Packers, who were really on a roll at the time. So now they're going into a game against the Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, the best team in football with the best quarterback who ever lived. Let's be honest. The level Mahomes is playing at now, only Aaron Rodgers has ever touched, and that includes Tom Brady. He's just more physically gifted. They have weapons everywhere, but Chiefs have looked a little vulnerable, haven't they? I mean, even going back to the playoff run in the Super Bowl, they've been vulnerable. And the Bucs do have an excellent defense. And they do have a Brady who should be motivated after a loss. And they do have weapons. And so once again, Arians is pushing the buttons. And Ryan, the thing about Arians pushing these buttons is he's just being honest. He can just answer questions honestly. And in answering them honestly, he will motivate Brady, set an example for the team, and we should get the best version of the Bucs against KC.
Well, the thing is, though, we're not always getting the best version of Brady after these losses. And you are right. Bruce Arians is just being honest. And what we're not used to is coaches being honest about star quarterbacks. We're not used to hearing where exactly a player made a mistake. But that's about relationship as well. Listen, these guys are dating, right? This isn't a marriage. They're not trying to be together for the next 15, the next 20 years. They're not trying to be Bill Belichick and Tom Brady part 2. They understand that this thing is short term. They understand that we are looking for a nice, great time, not a long time. So they need to win right now. So he doesn't have to hedge his bet with Tom Brady or make Tom Brady feel comfortable by the things that he says in his press conferences. He could just answer the questions that are being asked. And that's what he did. And he's only talking about football, right? He's talking about the actual football play, the stuff that we can all see. And Bruce Arians' bigger issue with Tom Brady is that on the practice field, he knows these things work, right? Because what's coming into question now, right? Why are you throwing the football so deep? That's not Tom Brady's game. That's not necessarily what's made him successful throughout his career. But we all know that's the way that Bruce Arians plays football. And when you have Godwin, when you have Mike Evans, when you have AB, when you have Gronk, you're going to want to push the ball down the field because you have the weapons that can do it. And what he's saying is those dudes are open. What he's saying is I am right. I'm making the right calls, right? I'm pulling the right levers. Our quarterback is not connecting. And that's just the truth. And to think that you believe, right, that you believe in some way Tom Brady needs external motivation is crazy to me. Dude don't need external motivation. He built a whole platform on the way that he preserves himself in order to be able to play while he's ancient. That's part of who he is. That's part of his motivation. That's the reason he looked like a smushed donut when he came out of school. And his face is slim because he's put himself in position to win. The dude said, if you want to beat me, you're going to have to be willing to die. That ain't got nothing to do with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is expressing his frustration with knowing that things should be working differently, and the quarterback he got ain't doing it. And that's what. Go ahead.
Look. I think you bring up a very good point because we knew there was tension philosophically in bringing Brady into a place where the motto is no risk it, no biscuit, and you bring in a dink and dunk quarterback, which is what Brady's been. Don't tell me when he basically tweeted that at me, right? Like 61 miles an hour on the radar gun or whatever, because you know as you get older, you have to muscle that more. That's why he overthrows down the field at times, right? It's not that he can't throw the fastball. It's that he can't control it the way he used to because it takes more effort now. So, but like putting that aside, there's that tension between the no risk it, no biscuit and the dinking and dunking. You know, I get that. In terms of external motivation, though, let me ask you a question. I would never question Brady's internal motivation. I wouldn't question Kobe Bryant's or Michael Jordan's or Derek Jeter's or any of the greats like that, the 5-time plus champions, right? Those guys, I get it, but it's not like just because you're internally motivated, there is no external motivation. It's not like just because this one can go to 11. You can always be at 10, but then some adrenaline kicks in, and now you're capable of going to a place that you're not normally capable of going, which is why some of these guys play even better in the playoffs, right? Do you think it's coincidence that Tom Brady played that kind of game against the Packers and had the whole team on point against the Packers after the debacle against the Bears?
But see,
was that a coincidence,
yes,
or was that a motivated Brady doing his best?
Max, no, it wasn't though. But see, though, it's like that's my issue. That's my issue with maybe the whole media world. Right? It's when they come back and play extremely well against the Green Bay Packers, nobody gives anybody else any credit. It's, oh, look at Tom Brady's leadership. Look at the way Tom Brady got the team together because Tom Brady cussed out the O-line on the sideline. No. That was Bruce Arians, right? Because what we came in and what we said, even though we talked about the 4th down that he thought was the 5th down that should have been coming, even with all that, what we said was Bruce Arians failed Tom Brady that day because the team is undisciplined. And so now when everything gets fixed, though, it's Tom Brady? No. What you don't remember about the Green Bay Packers game is Tom Brady didn't go crazy because he didn't have to. Because when they were down 10-0, Jamel Dean gets an interception. That's a pick 6. Tom Brady's on the sideline drinking Gatorade. And then Carlton Davis breaks up the next pass to Devontae Adams, and it's returned into the red zone, and then Tom Brady's able to hit Gronk. And so it wasn't Tom Brady
How many drive-killing penalties did the offensive line have that week?
They had zero. But that's because Tom Brady cussed them out? That's because Tom Brady held up 4? Or is it because Bruce Arians and he's the coach, and Byron Leftwich?
No, I do believe that a lot of that had to do with Brady, yeah. I do believe that leadership at the quarterback position and the way you practice and the way you go about your business, the reason that Brady got so much credit for bringing a culture change to Tampa, which I give him credit for. I do think there's something to that. I do think there's something to the 3 close plays that the Patriots did not make this year with Cam, that even if it was a different style game, that Brady would have made at least, let's say, 2 of them, right? They'd be above 500. I do believe in that stuff. So yes, I do think that Brady gets credit for leadership and also deserves blame for not coming through in the clutch. Ryan, in other words, what's the Arians trying to do here? He's just venting because he doesn't like that Brady brought in AB. that would be self-destructive. I think
No,
Arians is trying to push
stupid.
the right buttons, and I think he generally has.
All right, yeah, Arians is certainly pushing Brady to try and get to another level. Ryan, I must say, I loved your dating comparison. Because, you know, happy wife, happy life, that's what they normally say. Arians not following that exact model. But look, Brady has another test this coming weekend. He wants to bounce back this